Hello. So this week we're going over two-step equations. We kind of talked about solving equations last week where we talked about one-step equations, but two-step equations, it's harder to just look at it and know what it is. So what we are going to do is something called inverse operations. So we're basically going to do the opposite of things. And we go in reverse order of operations. We do everything backwards. So whenever solving, I recommend drawing a line down your equal sign. Because in order to keep an equation balanced, you have to do the same thing on each side of the equation. So everything I do on one side, I have to do on the other. So I need to get rid of all the numbers around the b because the goal is to isolate the b, get it all the way by itself. And a general rule of thumb is you start with whatever is further away. So I'm going to start with this 7. So to get rid of a 7 that's added on there, I'm going to subtract 7 on both sides because the opposite of adding is subtraction. So those two cancel out, and then I bring my negative 7b down. A minus is just like a negative. And then 91 minus 7 is going to be 84. So whenever you have a variable with a coefficient, meaning like a number that touches the variable, to get rid of that number, you're going to divide by it. So I'm going to divide by negative 7 on both sides. That thereby cancels those out because any number divided by itself is just 1. So my b comes down, and 84 divided by negative 7 is negative 12. And the b's by itself, so I'm done. Cool. These kind of freak people out sometimes. So when you have a fraction, remember we talked about this when we were doing writing equations, but a fraction bar is division. So the opposite of dividing by 14 is adding by 14. Now, since this whole thing is being divided by 14, I can't do anything until I get rid of that 14. So I have to multiply by 14 first on both sides. On this side, oops, forgot my line, it just cancels out. So on this side, I just bring down my negative 9 plus n, and then 14 times negative 2 gives me negative 28. So now I still have to get n by itself. So I'm going to add 9, because the opposite of negative 9 is positive 9, to both sides. Those cancel each other out, and the n comes down. And I'm going to end up with n equals negative 19. Now that the n is by itself, I am done. With this one, since the fraction bar is only touching the n, I need to get rid of the 10 first. Like I said, get rid of whatever's further away. Up here, that 14 was kind of further away, but down here, the 10 is further away. So the opposite of plus 10 is going to be minus 10. So these will cancel. I'll have n over 2 equals negative 7. So now I have n divided by 2. So remember, it's the inverse operation. The opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2 to cancel those out, and I get n equals negative 14. And then I'm done. So I'm just going to go through each of those one more time so you have more examples. Again, I'm going to get rid of what's further away, so that's going to be the plus 9. So I'm going to subtract 9 on both sides to cancel those out. This comes down. Get negative 7m equals negative 77. Not negative 77, just regular 77. So I have to divide both sides by negative 7 so that I can cancel those out, because when you have a variable touching a number, you divide. So on this side, I just get m, and on this side, I get negative 11. Now that the m is by itself, ta-da, I am done. 2 more. Again, the number further away from V is 7. And I can't, these are both stuck in a fraction with 7. So I have to multiply by 7 first on both sides before I can do anything else. That will cancel those out, and my V plus 8 will come down. 7 times 0 is just 0. So to get rid of a plus 8, the opposite would be to minus 8. And then my V comes down. And 0 minus 8 is negative 8. V is by itself. So I am done. Last one. I'm going to get rid of the negative 5 first. The opposite of minus 5 is going to be plus 5 on both sides. These cancel. My n over 6 comes down. And negative 8 plus 5 gives me negative 3. So the opposite of dividing by 6 is going to be to multiply by 6 on both sides. Because remember, you have to do the same thing on both sides. So I'm going to get n equals negative 18. N's by itself, so I am all done. So that is how you solve two-step equations.